Well, welcome back to Safe Harbor Financials, a channel navigating your path to success with industry compliant financials. Joining to discuss the recent election, we're going to talk about what to look forward to with Safe Harbor and so much more. We have Tyler, the Chief Strategic Business Development Officer, joining. First and foremost, a pleasure to get you on.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people are asking, and everyone's trying to figure out how this election cycle plays in, and we're going to come to that. But I wouldn't mind rolling back a little bit for newer, investors, audiences out there. What led up to that aha moment? How did you get involved with Safe Harbor?
Yeah, I've had a unique path. I've been very fortunate to be on the front lines of the cannabis banking world since really even, I would say, before it started. So I started at the very beginning with a tech provider that banks and credit unions used to bank high risk industries. And naturally, when cannabis launched in Colorado, I was in the first ever bank that started to bank it there. And then, over the years, spent time in most every institution throughout the country that was banking it or considering banking it at some point. And then that led to everybody in the industry calling me for bank accounts because, it wasn't public information necessarily as to where you could go to get a bank account or who was doing what in what state. So I got to know the industry that way. I got to sit with, virtually every major licensee with those banks and credit unions throughout the country. And then spent a ton of time with bank and credit union regulators, state government, local municipality government officials, and federal, obviously, as well. So, was really in the thick of all of it, and was in a unique, what I would call, seat at the table where everybody kind of came for everything. And before Safe Harbor went public, I had the chance to join the company. I was a big fan of what Sunday had accomplished. Loved the team, loved where the organization was going, and found it really attractive to be able to have everything in house instead of just being the liaison to refer everybody everywhere else. And so when I had the chance to join the company, it was a no brainer for me, and I feel very fortunate to be here.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the insight on that. And speaking from the regulatory front, how do you feel about this current election cycle with the new administration? What do you think it means for the regulations around cannabis, especially maybe in the financial side of it? Do you see anything changing from that side?
No, I don't see anything changing, and I don't think I'm a little skeptical when it comes to federal legislation having an impact on our industry at this point. I think it's been proven time and time again that the private sector is going to solve it itself, despite delays in legislation. I mean, I think we're on what, round 8 or 9 of SAFE being proposed and going to pass. So I don't think that the election necessarily had any impact on banking, nor would it have. And I would also say to this topic, this is and will remain a highly regulated, cash-intensive business, no matter what happens. And I think what people fail to realize, and I know this just because I have these businesses calling me for banking relationships as well as cannabis. There are a whole series of industries that are perfectly legal that have been essentially shut out of the banking system because they pose significant regulatory compliance burden to any institution looking to potentially bank them. And so, I know this is not what the industry wants to hear per se, but this will always be a highly regulated, cash intensive industry. And as such, there are going to be a limited number of institutions willing to serve it. And if you look at what's happened in Canada since they legalized, that's the perfect example. I mean, there are probably less than 5 to 10 institutions in the country that will serve cannabis despite it being federally legal there.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the insight on that as well. And just to kind of finish up here, moving forward, where do you see Safe Harbor going? I know we're going to get into the financials in the latter half. You guys just posted quarterly, which was pretty decent to say the least, getting into some cash flow there. But I mean, do you see this continuing to evolve the way we're seeing it? Maybe just kind of wrap this around and talk about the unique features that Safe Harbor has been putting itself in for a position.
Yeah, I think for us, look, the market, this is the most competitive cannabis banking environment I've seen in a decade. And that's a natural progression of the industry. And we've certainly had challenges with that. Obviously, more competition. We've got to get leaner. We've got to get more strategic. But I think we've implemented some things that are going to separate us from the pack, and we've got a unique ability to do that. I also think that operators are getting to the point where they've grown exponentially. They're very sophisticated. We're one of the few, if not the only, that can streamline operations into one interface. And what I mean by that is there are a whole group of operators that have 5, 10, 15, 20 bank accounts across multiple states because they've always had to do it that way. Well, we've positioned ourselves to be one of the few, if not the only, where those operators can come. They can streamline their entire operation into one home, essentially. We can serve all of those markets for them, and we can save them a surmountable amount of money. Not to mention, lending will continue to be a huge priority for us. And there are very few institutions that are lending at the same rate that we are. And as our deposits grow, that ability grows as well. So I think that we're going to see a number of institutions exit the market over the next 12 to 18 months because it's going to be very difficult to compete. But I think in a weird way, we're going to be a beneficiary of that added competitive landscape that has come to the industry in the last few years.
Yeah, and I will note, just kind of pulling off some of the financials there, that you guys saw that interest income increase by 143.5% to 4.8 million. So it's nice seeing some of that loan growth. But as we pass it off to the viewers, though, we'd love to know what you think in that comment section, and definitely consider subscribing. As news and catalysts come down the wire, we're going to bring it to you here. But on that note, as always, we look forward to catching you in the next one.